So the Satanic Temple has a holiday display at the Iowa State Capitol. And there are a whole lot of Christians who are very upset about this. They say the Satanic Temple has no right to be there whatsoever. And some have gone so far as to call this display unconstitutional. A state representative, Brad Sherman, claims that the preamble of the Constitution refers to a supreme being. He says that supreme being is God, and he says that Satan is the enemy of God, so therefore the display is unconstitutional. Now, I really don't think he's thought this one through, because the First Amendment says this: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So he's free to believe however he wants to. He's free to exercise his religious beliefs however he sees fit. His interpretation is just that. If he believes that God is the good guy in the story and Satan is the enemy, well, that's his beliefs and he's protected by the Constitution. If the Satanic Temple wants to believe in the adversary, then that's their belief and they're protected by the Constitution. But people like Brad Sherman kept pushing Governor Kim Reynolds till she finally weighed in on the situation. She said this: like many Iowans, I find the Satanic Temple's display in the Capitol absolutely objectionable. In a free society, the response to objectionable speech is more speech, and I encourage all those of faith to join me today in praying over the Capitol and recognizing the nativity scene that will be on display, the true reason for the season. Again, that's her belief. She believes that the nativity scene is the true reason for the season, and she has every right to believe that. The only part of that statement that I agree with is where she says in a free society, the response to objectionable speech is more speech. I feel the same exact way whenever I hear the hatred coming out of MAGA Republicans' mouth. But let's take a look at what the Satanic Temple had to say in response. This was their statement. The Satanic Temple is proud to participate in the festivities at the Capitol this holiday season. Our display features the 7 tenets, a set of 7 core beliefs that members see as their guidepost for our deeply held beliefs, advocating for bodily autonomy, a rejection of arbitrary authority, recognizing our own fallibility and inspiring nobility in thought and action, which we hope enlightens the viewer to our beliefs and inspires one to reflect upon their own approach to the world. I hate to do this, I hate to be the devil's advocate, but it sounds to me like that the Satanic Temple is the voice of reason here. They're not saying they're the true reason for the season. They're not saying that you're going to die and go to hell if you don't believe them. They're not saying that the other displays are unconstitutional. They're simply saying, these are our beliefs. We would like to enlighten you on our beliefs, and we would like for you to reflect on how you approach the world. But Christians are all bent out of shape over this because it's the Satanic Temple. And I guarantee you these Christians have never actually looked in to see what the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple actually says. And these are the same people who always wants to push the 10 Commandments on us. They're the ones that wants the 10 Commandments in every courthouse. They want them in every classroom. They want us to put prayer back in school. And they tell us that when we took the 10 Commandments out and when we took prayer out, that's when all this went to hell. And if we just put it all back, then we'd have peace on earth. That's what they tend to believe. And that's what they preach to us all the time. But I guarantee you they've never actually looked at the 7 tenets. So that's what we're going to do here today. We're going to look at the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple, and we're going to compare them to the 10 Commandments that the Christians won't put in every courtroom and every classroom. So here they are, the 7 fundamental tenets of the Satanic Temple. Number 1, one should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. Number 2, the struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. Number 3, one's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. Number 4, the freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another is to forego one's own. Number 5, beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit one's own beliefs. Number 6, people are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do the best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might have been caused. And number 7, every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action and thought. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or the spoken word. I don't see anything wrong with that. I would have no problem with my children being exposed to that. I would have no problem with my children following that. But let's take a look at the 10 Commandments that they want to have in every courthouse and every classroom. The 10 Commandments. Number 1, I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Number 2, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images. Number 3, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Number 4, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And number 5, honor thy father and mother. So we're halfway through the list, and there's not one mention of compassion. There's not one mention of empathy. There's not one mention of respect. There's not one mention of how you should treat another human being. There's not one mention of what your rights on this earth are. All they're talking about is control. All those are about is control and keeping people in line. How to worship God. How to obey God. And how to honor thy father and mother. Well, I disagree with that. We should not just automatically honor our father and mother. If your father and mother are abusive parents and you live in an abusive home, then you don't owe them any honor. But this list, we're 5 into it, and it said nothing about how you should treat other people. It's just all about obedience to God. And who's telling you what God says? Your mom and dad, and they tell you to honor them. So finally, when we get down here to number 6, this is one we can all agree on. Thou shalt not kill, even though God, found all kinds of reasons to kill whenever he felt like it. Number 7, thou shalt not commit adultery. Number 8, thou shalt not steal. Okay, there's another law that we can all agree on. Number 9, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. So perjury, we can all agree that that's not good. And that's against the law. And then number 10, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods. I've never understood that one. Because if I look over at my neighbor's house and I covet it and I want one and I go out and buy one or build one, then all that does is help the economy. But you've got 10 commandments and only 3 of them are actual laws. Only 3 of them are stuff that we could all agree on. And there's no mention of rape. There's no mention of incest. There's no mention of torture. There's no mention of abuse. And there's sure no mention of slavery, because all of those things were somehow condoned in the Bible. And there's not one mention of how you should treat another human being on this planet, or how you should respect them, or how you should live your life in the world. When you go over and look at the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple, and you think about the Christian nationalists and the agenda they're pushing today, the Christian nationalists are the ones after bodily autonomy. They're after human rights, they're after women's rights, and they're willing to strip those rights away from anyone who they disagree with. They have absolutely declared war on anyone they disagreed with, and they're using their religion as a way to get those things accomplished and as a way for control. When you look, one should strive to act with the compassion and empathy. There's no words of that in the 10 Commandments. When you drop down to number 4 here, the freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another is to forego one's own. The Christian nationalists are constantly encroaching upon other people's freedoms. And when you drop down to number 6, people are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might have been done. Where is any mention of that in the 10 Commandments? And how many times have we sat back and watched these Christian nationalists and these MAGA Republicans make excuses for the insurrectionists, make excuses for Kyle Rittenhouse, make excuses for Donald Trump, tell us that we didn't see what we really saw, tell us we didn't hear what we really heard. How many times have they tried to gaslight us in the name of their religion and use their religion to control everybody? Well, I'm not ashamed at all to be the devil's advocate here in this scenario. When you compare the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple versus the 10 Commandments, the Satanic Temple is the voice of reason here.